Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Before we jump into today's studio, I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, Begin Again Institute. If you or anyone you love is suffering from porn or sex addiction, definitely go check them out. Their description is in the bio. Their bio is in the description. That's it. I got it. They are a big part of my story. I'm a firm believer of what they're doing out there, so definitely go check them out. And appreciate and grateful for their sponsorship. So on today's episode, special guest in the house. This will be your third time on the show, man. Welcome back to No Lions Here. My sponsor and great friend, Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
Not much, Alex. I gotta match that energy level, man. You are a hell of a host. Happy to be here, bud. Third time.
That's saying a lot, man, for you to match my energy, because you're like the extroverted one.
I usually am, but the way you just came into this, my headphones are popping. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Let's go, Jeff. Let's go.
Yeah, man. Welcome back, dude. I mean,
thank you.
So obviously, this is your third time on the show, but obviously it's not like this is we haven't talked since the last time we talk still, which something that I've noticed recently, and we're going to get into it a little bit, but I got into a relationship recently. You got into a new relationship recently. Like, hooray for us. But like the communication has looked different, right? We went from, and we've kind of alluded to like this kind of happening, like, because I think it went from, we were talking every single day, for a good while there, for a good stretch. And then now it's kind of, every other day, or maybe a couple days will pass, and work schedules and things like that kind of, which it's nothing that like I'm upset about or anything like that, but it's just interesting to see the dynamics change. Just like, recovery, right? It evolves, it changes, it ebbs and flows.
I agree. Yeah.
And luckily I'm in a spot in my recovery where like, and I was telling this somebody at the treatment center the other day, like when you first get into recovery, like, call your sponsor every single day. Whether he answers or not, call him every single day, right? That's part of your job, accountability. But then your recovery evolves to where like, maybe I don't need to call my sponsor every single day, right? Or maybe these things that used to cause a fire inside of me, like, yeah, there's a fire, but it's more manageable to where like, maybe I don't need to go and hit necessarily a meeting right away. Or maybe I don't need to. Maybe it's just some self-reflecting there that I need to do that I'm more comfortable with doing than early on in recovery when like you really need guidance. We all need guidance though.
Amen.
So I don't know. Thought it's interesting.
Very interesting.
Interesting point.
I was mulling that over. I'm like, is there a question in there?
I'm just stating it's something I've thought about recently, and like it's funny because I think early on in recovery I would have been like, "Oh, we're not talking that much, Jeff. What don't you like me anymore?"
Yeah, no, I get you. I think we're segueing into, like you said, there's a lot to talk about. I'll take this moment along these lines, right? I'm driving over here tonight, and one of our friends, one of our brethren, he's not called me in a while. And I caught myself with this thought. I was critical of him. I'm like, he's not reaching out. He's not calling. He's not being accountable in the way that I, in my almightiness, who the hell am I, right? He's not being accountable to me because I'm judging him, right? Thankfully, right behind that, I had this awareness with the question of, Jeff, who are you accountable to right now? Because yes, I have a girlfriend now, and my connections and my communication has changed. It's evolving. It's not dropped off, but it's evolving. But the minute I caught myself criticizing this individual, I looked inward and sort of had a tough little scan of, who am I accountable to still at a level of, whatever, besides her? Because she's in there, which I believe in being of service to you in your home first.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's a choice. And then I take actions based upon that choice in that connection with her. Okay, great. How abstract, what does it look like? What is my accountability to other people, even though I'm in a committed relationship? Because if I don't make a choice as to what that looks like, passively, it will erode or maybe even disappear. Case in point, meditation for me has fallen off the tabletop largely. I'm talking about like committed, disciplined sits. Journaling has become sporadic because I would always do it in the morning.
Yeah.
And now my morning routines are changed with sleepovers and schedule dynamic differences, church attendance, for example. All of these things I have to look at and go, they're all in flux within this new relationship, but in flux toward like they're not getting stronger, right? They're going away. So I just own that. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense at all, but I need to not criticize the other program member, but rather look at my own house.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I can see a lot of that in my life, like going from, with there's a distance there for me and the girlfriend. So it's like she doesn't live just 15 minutes down the road to where I can just go down there, right? These are planned dates, but these dates are falling on my off days where I would do a lot of self-care, running, exercising, just kind of taking care of me, podcasting even. I've kind of talked about this on the show recently. Like podcasting has taken a little bit of a hit. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sitting here complaining that these things have taken a hit, but okay, so then I have to come in and prioritize what means the most to me right now. Whereas this relationship does take priority. So, okay, so now where can I fill in on the back end these other things that also mean something to me, like the podcast, exercising, because these things are healthy for me and I need to keep doing them because I can get lost. And I think we've talked about this, right? Like there's so many parallels in my and yours journey since knowing each other, switching careers. Right. And then we come along. We had to go through that whole process and then starting new careers. And then, okay, hey, it's time to date, which you and I have both tried to date previously in recovery. And we had our experiences with that. But it's just because I can get lost in that relationship. I can literally throw all of my stuff to the side and say, oh, well, I'm in this relationship now and this is my new identity.
Right.
And so the challenge is in recovery to maintain my own anonymity, my autonomy, while also being of service in my relationship too, and making that a priority.
Yeah.
And that's really only a struggle that you bump up against when you get into a relationship.
Exactly. And I love that you said that. Like, I want to say it's not black and white. And in some ways it's just, you don't grow until, in my opinion, I'm not going to grow in this until I have the experience and trial and error. I don't want to use the word fail, but like watch some things fade and then see that, whether you want to call this 10th step, whatever, inventory, being honest and seeing and saying like, okay, I got to make an adjustment there. I had a sponsor call me, twice this week and I didn't get back to him, whatever. That's just a fictitious example. Or rather, I personally feel, although I mentioned the meditation and the journaling and whatnot, I'm still journaling, I'm still meditating. It just looks different. I see it. There's not a fire raging. Other areas, still attend a home group meeting. I still talk to my sponsor multiple times a week. I still am in touch with our core group of program brothers and sisters very consistently. I receive and make multiple program phone calls and texts every single day. Again, not bragging about that, but these are things I need to look at. If that were to drop off honestly and become like a 0 or a 1, no calls made and 1 came in over the span of weeks and months, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
That is not the case though, right? So the wheels not falling off the car at all, not even lug nuts getting loose, just maybe a little vibration here and there, but I'm like, you and I, yes, we both are dated and have entered into what I objectively would say, I know you well, healthy, committed relationships in the early stages, but we have built a very clean, mindful foundation with a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about this all the time. And I feel really good and clean about the work that I'm doing. I know you do as well. So And it didn't just happen in like, oh, I had a great Friday night and now we're in love. That's not, like we'll get into that. That's not what we're talking about. So it's exciting, but yeah, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much mental and emotional bandwidth for all things life, and I think by and large, all things considered, maybe my sponsor would call bullshit in some way, but I'm like, I give myself a pat on the back. All things considered, I think we're doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, just navigating the new stuff, man. I mean, and this is life too, right? Like getting into new situations, new experiences. Like I don't want to just stay the same. I want to step out of my comfort zone. I want to grow, dating's scary, right? Getting into that relationship, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's you got to share these parts of people because, going on about this, talking about a dating plan and, where does the physical intimacy fit in and what needs to be disclosed before we move forward and giving somebody the opportunity to say, hey, yes or no. And like, that's fucking scary. Like real scary to have to disclose this information about myself that I'm not real proud of, that I still feel shame around. And to say, hey, here is me. What do you think? And then also having to be okay on the other side of that if they do say, hey, this is not for me,
I do.
Because it's like, oh, wow. Like, because I could take that personally when it doesn't necessarily have to be a personal thing.
In all likelihood, we will. We're gonna struggle with that. That is a reflection. Their choice. I'm gonna interpret that as it's gonna touch my shame, right? I'm not good. I'm not worthy. I am rejected. We know that may not be the truth, but that's going to be, again, without having that practice of actually going out and doing it and maybe being rejected. It's all a theory up till then. We can sit with our program buddy and talk about, well, if I do this and they say this, I will apply this tool and remind myself that I have worth and blah, like that sounds really nice. When somebody says, no, I'm not really interested in you, like in real time, in reality, and you have an experience with that, like in your gut, in your soul, all those little Brene Brown books and things, they just get and don't get me wrong, that stuff is great, but it's just like, as one of our friends says, is like shooting a BB gun at a moving train. It just like, it doesn't seem to counter it. It's just going to hurt really bad. Yeah. Right. So,
or everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Until they get punched in the face.
Right. Well, shout out to Mike Tyson.
Shout out.
Iron Mike.
Yeah. Amen.
Man. So let's talk about what that experience was like for you in dating, right? Because this is still new. I think it was May or June, somewhere around there that we decide, like, I know that was kind of around the time when I decided, I think it was around May-ish that I decided, okay, hey, I'm going to put myself out there. And what does this look like? And I know for me, first off, it was, writing out the dating plan, right? What are my non-negotiables? What am I looking for in a partner? What are the avenues that I'm going to use? So what did that kind of look like for you? I mean, I know, but, what did that kind of look like for you as far as like getting into that and trying to do it in a healthy way? Because we've talked about this before. On a whim, compulsive, downloaded Tinder,
right?
And that didn't work, right?
Right. No. Like a little backstory. I had to, and forgive me, this is like a little meandering, but I'm going to try to get back on point.
Yeah.
I know what I struggle with, and that is among many things, the belief that everything had to be separated, black and white, cut and dry before I would move on to the next thing. And that sounds really nice, but like I had to be fully over. What does that mean? Right? In air quotes, over, meaning I didn't think about them anymore ever. Something like that over the last POA, let's say, or my
what for the crowd POA.
Oh, person of addiction, person that I was just batshit crazy around, obsessed with, and had an emotional dependency on that last connection of mine where they broke up with me, and it was incredibly painful because it wasn't about them, but the rejection, and I needed them. Okay. And I well, for me, first of all, I had to go into solitude for, in my case, it was a year and a half. Okay. And I just throw that out there. I didn't read that in a textbook like, hey, before you enter into a relationship, spend this amount of time all by yourself. Okay. It's some sort of fluid thing. Everybody's going to have their own experience. But I knew with my specific challenges that I have an emotional dependency issue on relationships and women as part of my sex and love addiction. And the ending of that connection made that very clear to me. And I knew not what the crystal clear solution and actions needed to be, but what I did know was that I needed to sit still and grieve and just work on personal wholeness, autonomy, and not being connected. Whatever instincts I felt to go out and cling to some woman to be loved, I knew I needed to not do that. And I did that one day at a time, not doing that and it hurt a lot. I cried a whole bunch. You and I, a lot of phone calls in there.
Yep.
So again, back to that myth that, okay, one day in that year and a half, some light bulb was going to go off and I was going to get a message from my higher power saying, okay, I'm all done now with that. I got my diploma. I graduated from feeling shame and regret and guilt around betraying my ex-wife. And I'm no longer thinking at all about this other person. My mind and heart are a neutral, clean slate. Now it's time to go date, right? That sounds really nice. But what I've accepted, this is just my truth, is that there is, it's unavoidable, some overlap. The colors will bleed. The beginnings of some new connection, the wheel can begin to turn while this healing, evolving process is still taking place over there. I didn't like that answer. It's a messy answer.
It is, and it's that whole idea of like I have to have this checklist checked off. I have to work through A, B, and C, whether it's a previous relationship or my own internal problems, before I'm able to even date. But there is no real checklist like that.
It's an individual's capacity to be truly honest with themselves. Yeah. And one of the things you and I talked a lot about this, and this is nothing original on my part, but the idea of I'm going to get over someone or a connection with the creation of a new connection with someone else, right? Happens all the time. Let's just be honest, right? It's all the time. But because I know my truth and I have a little bit of recovery enough to be dangerous in sobriety, like I know I was committed. I would not do that, Alex. I would not do that no matter how bad it hurt. And for however long it took, I wasn't going to do that. And I didn't. And I have not. And I feel good about that. How do I quantify that, though? When I finally did begin to date, one of our program friends challenged me after a year and, 4 months, let's say, 5 months, something like that. He said, I'm going to challenge you, Jeff, because this is my experience. I was being controlling, and I was afraid, to be honest. There was fear present, and that was, I'm not going to date anybody because I am not meeting this criteria that I've set up in my own mind, that
the expectations of self.
Like I can't think about so-and-so ever, and I can't still feel shame around the betrayal of my ex-wife, because that means I'm not ready. I've loosened a death grip on that. I don't know that's not true. It's just not. And so, and I trust this friend who gave me this advice. And I said, okay, all right, another friend of ours, I'm going to throw this out there. This changed the construct for me of what dating is. I didn't realize I had this belief system, but I did. And it's this. He said, this is the idea. Dating with the intention of getting to know someone, and possibly more, as compared to dating to be in a relationship. And when he said that, I mean, it seems so simple, but it was profound to me. And what I realized was that, well, I've never had really any experience with dating. I've been married twice, but I didn't date either of those women. The truth is, I radiate an energy, and that energy is met and reciprocated by someone. And we know it. We're sensitive to it. Usually, I hate to say it, but there's like trauma, dysfunction, neuroses. We're speaking similar languages, exchanging similar energies. That's not dating. And I did it. And when someone was into me, and I knew it, I knew they were into me. They thought I was, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm like, okay, great. And it's subconscious, it's unspoken. And then I would attach with that person, like quickly over a brief period of time. And I'm in a relationship with them. And then I get married, let's say. That seems overly simplistic. But again, I say this in hindsight. That wasn't, in fact, dating. There's no risk involved. I didn't reveal myself to them or in a way that was vulnerable or frightening, really, because I knew they were already into me. I just knew, right? When I ventured out this time, it was with that new mindset of I'm simply going to put myself out there and date to get to know someone, maybe more. In fact, I this is a little cringy, but each person was almost like a lab experiment. I don't want to say that I used them, but I did, not with any sort of maliciousness, but it was like I was very honest, very transparent, and I would specifically express my intentions that right up front on the first date with anybody, that in fact I was simply interested in getting to know them.
Yeah.
I was not trying to be physical with them. In fact, every day I went on 6 or 7 dates with different people. Several people said no, several people said yes. And I err on the side of probably oversharing, but at the onset or outset, I don't know, whatever, at the beginning, how about that? I'm like, I am not trying to sleep with you, believe it or not. Like, I have no interest. I'm not trying to kiss you. I'm not trying to touch you. I'm not trying to have sex with you. I just simply want to get to know you.
Yeah.
And it's probably weird to people, like these women were like, that's odd, but they seem to appreciate it, right? Treating them with respect.
Yeah, being upfront.
Being upfront.
People appreciate when you're upfront with them.
And then my actions actually backed it up, though, because in the past I've also been like, I'm a good guy.
Oh, yep.
And I'm actually like seducing you with my good guyness.
Yep. Yep. I can play the role of the nice guy real good.
Yeah, until there's an opening and I'm not, So, but I went out and I had these experiences, right? I practice, whatever word you want to kind of use.
Yeah, I was gonna say there, like the expectation for me was almost like practice. Like, let's practice this. I've never really gone about this in this way before with this intent. Let's practice. Let's just get some practice and build some confidence up in me, because that's what I was really lacking in that field of dating, putting myself out there, was the confidence. I need practice. I don't know if these are necessarily going to lead anywhere, but let's at least practice in a clean way.
Yeah. I also throw out the need to be rejected. Who wants to run headlong into that, right? But in a sober, you and I talk a lot about, I think a lot of sobriety, we talk about emotional sobriety, and to me a lot of it is what I call emotional maturity. Sobriety is my growing up and being a healthy adult, right? It seems simple, right? But easier said than done. I think my acting out, my trauma, all that stuff is very underdeveloped adolescent emotional reactivity. The toddler throwing the tantrum. Do not reject me. Do not abandon me. Please, please, please. Right? I don't believe that I can change or grow or heal any of that in a vacuum without experiences, without practice. And that means I have to go out and risk being rejected. Now, earlier in recovery, and I think you kind of even touched on this, there's no way that I could actually do that. I don't think I just couldn't. Okay, I just couldn't. No. I did reach a point where it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't pleasant, but some people said no. And I was like, oh, and I could feel it, that it hurt greater than the surface level reality. Like something inside was touched, right? The wounded boy who desperately needs every woman to love him. And I was able to use tools that I think I've acquired and emotionally regulate to some extent. Like, okay, that's not me. That's actually not, I'm okay. Right now, that didn't take place in 5 minutes. Sometimes it was maybe a day or two, and journaling and all that. But I came back to solid ground fairly quickly, fairly easily. It wasn't crippling like it once upon a time was. I didn't have to download something. I didn't have to act out. I just took it and just kind of grew up through it until it was a non-threatening. One of our program buddies uses this kind of language. We have to learn to sit with things until we have a non-threatening relationship, a non-threatening, intimate relationship with them. Shame, rejection, and that seems simple to talk about, but where the rubber meets the road, like, we will avoid that. I have avoided that with every fiber of my being. because I think it would like kill me.
Yep.
You know, but it doesn't. So
Yep.
Anyway, going out and dating and like, hey, here's my number. I realized that social media platforms weren't the best for me, but like trial and error. I tried Tinder, tried Bumble. In my mind, I rationalized Bumble as like a little bit better. Some other ones were like, oh, maybe that one's even better. Maybe I should get a Match. One that I work in an environment that's all men. I don't go to bars and meet women. I don't drink. I'm sober. So I legitimately had a challenge where, how do I meet?
Where do we meet?
A healthy, in my case, woman in the circles that I frequent. My 12-step meetings are predominantly men, not by choice. It just looks that way. And somewhere in there, I was like, well, I could just leave this to my higher power. I think I told you, I made a choice. Again, back to the apps weren't for me. That was me being willful and wanting to manage a situation and create a dynamic that I wanted. And that was, I'm going to make this relationship happen. I sort of, again, this is just me. I let go of the controls there and decided that if I bumped into someone in reality, in real time, like, hey, they encountered me, they're in front of me, and they seemed interesting or whatnot, I would take a shot. That energy around that is different than the neediness in which I frequently enter a social media platform with. Because I have met the woman I'm seeing, I met her in reality, I'll just call it, and I was on solid ground. And usually I'm not. In fact, not usually. I'm never that way when I enter some sort of dating site platform. So I don't know. You interject there, and we'll.
So what's interesting is like it's personal preference on how you go about it, right? So like in my experience, it was dating online. Now, and I had those same rationalizations. This time around, I used Hinge, which is not that. I view Tinder, Bumble as the quick fix. I'm looking for a quick fix here, right? I'd get on. We've talked about this before. I'll get on. I'll spend money, unlimited swipes, super likes. Like that's when I know that I'm like in my addiction, and it's because I'm paying for it. I'm constantly on it. I'm getting frustrated when I run out of swipes. I'm getting frustrated when I'm not having matches. Whereas I think that Hinge, I didn't pay for anything on Hinge. I wasn't on it obsessively all of the time. I kind of like, I don't know if created boundaries around it or just, I think, again, the intention. I'm using this not to run from my uncomfortable feelings internally. I'm doing this with an intention of, hey, I want to get to know somebody. My circles, I'm not really running into people. Kind of like you said, okay, let's see where this goes. Now, if it would have led me to where, because I know what Tinder's done for me in the past is I'll get real frustrated because I'm not getting matches. And then next thing you know is, well, I'm not getting any attention. I know where I can get some attention. Now let's flip over into the darker side of things. Whereas with this one, sure, I was getting attention. I was getting some matches. In my mind, I justify it. And I think that this is somewhat true, that there's some more quality people on Hinge. I think those people, at least the people that I came across, were more willing to, hey, let's talk on the phone. Because that was part of my dating thing was, first we're going to do a phone call. Let's do a phone call and see if we even vibe. But again, I think that, and also too, I think generational too, age-wise, I'm a little younger than you, not by much. But I think that plays into it as well, like how we go about things. So again, if dating apps are your thing, or if you want to go out in public, like it's open, right? There's no blueprint that says I have to do it a certain way.
Amen.
It's just, am I being honest about my actions and what I'm doing, in which we were talking about all of this. We were talking about I was talking about all of my matches, all of my connections, the phone calls I was having, we were talking about that.
Yep.
So again, but with some of those other ones, I was doing those a little bit more in secrecy.
You hit the nail on the head. That one's ability to be honest with themselves and then transparent with it, right? Accountable. So you were able to, and I never doubted you as you spoke through this whole process, maintain some boundaries around your time on the apps, how preoccupied you were, how consumed you were with them. Did you spend money? Were you, right? It seemed like it was balanced. It was moderated. That's ideally what it looks like, right? I wanted it to be that way. My experience, unfortunately, was I would enter it again with the intention But then once the profile was made and the door was in existence, I found for me that my intention, let's say I made it on a Tuesday, right, or whatever, I could not guarantee that the intention would remain in a rock solid, healthy way through Thursday or Friday. There's going to be some day where I'm lonely and feeling inadequate, but that door is in existence. And then again, this was just me. I'm like, then I didn't create it to do that, but I then struggled with, I'm swiping more. I desperately want somebody to notice me. Right. Yeah. That was just something that I struggled with. I couldn't maintain a balance there. Some people can, awesome, and you had a great experience with it.
Yeah. And then like the challenge around like fast tracking the intimacy, because I can do that.
Yep.
So like really being mindful of that, like, because I didn't have a set, like, okay, once we hit this point in the conversation, I'm going to divulge the addictions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And learning to be okay with those being part of my story too. Right. Like I did not hide the fact that I was in recovery. My job is I work in recovery field. So when I tell somebody, hey, I work on a treatment center, normally the follow-up answer is what got you into that line of work?
Mm-hmm.
And then the answer always was, well, I'm in 12-step recovery. I don't got to go on, tell them about my sex addiction. I don't got to do all that, but I can give out these little information pieces. And maybe some people weren't okay with that. Most people seem to be okay with that. It was just interesting to see, okay, like, because it's all case by case. It's all situational.
Right.
It's all situational,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, I think in total, in all of the dates that I went on, which were probably about 5 or 6 with different women, I did not disclose that I was a sex addict until I was with my current partner. We had never gotten to that point in the dating that I felt the need to share that information with. Not because I was trying to hide it or trying to manage their perception. I just feel like we didn't get there, and understanding that like my story, like it's my story to share. You have to almost like gain my trust in order for me to share certain things about my story. Mm-hmm. Now, you could say, well, yeah, but Alex, you're on a podcast and you share it with the internet. But also, too, there's also things that I don't share on the podcast that are only with my inner circle and people close to me. And, just learning how to navigate that, like when's the right time. Because I found myself like chomping at the bit, like, I need to tell him, like,
right.
But it doesn't have to work like that.
You're right. It does not have to work like that, right? What does have to, and this is all in have to work like that mean, right? And you're right. Everybody's different. You have your experience. I think what was beneficial, I don't want to speak for you, but I will, like for both of us, is that we had a network of people that love us enough to hurt our feelings because they care more about our life than our feelings. So I know, case in point, like hey, did you say such and such and such? And like people urging to some things. I'm going to probably I'm going to bring this around linear. Some things I was maybe even too quick to reveal. I'd rather err on the side of I'm going to be truthful. Okay. Not too, once upon a time I did that. I overshared to create an attachment, right? A compulsive attachment, overshare to create an intimacy. This wasn't that, but it was and I'll get to it, but I'm sharing. I want you to know my truth because I have been duplicitous and I've been a liar, and I am hella, that's what the young people say. He's laughing. I'm stupid committed. Shut up.
I can't wait till you tell your daughter that.
That was terrible. I apologize to all the internet. My point is, I really want to stress, and I have had an experience with being that man, okay, and hurt you, like, and all the fallout that comes from that. And I was damned if I was going to like err on the side of, the Bill Wilson talks about what was common sense thus becomes uncommon sense. I'm going to like, guess what? I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be totally transparent. So sharing too soon, but then other elements like, oh, maybe I'm holding this back, and we know this. It's because I'm afraid. I'm gonna like this is the fucking worst of me. This is the biggest secret I have in my closet, and this is the thing I've held on to, and I've told myself quietly that I'm gonna die with this, and no one will know this, right? And until we find the courage and if someone's really potentially good for us, like this woman, this partner, this possible this day, it's not going to have any chance if you don't get it out there. You cannot play that game and say, oh, maybe in 6 months or so, maybe I'll control when that comes out there, right? You and I talked about this too. As the dating unfolded, I'm a firm believer in this. That person, in a healthy, timely manner, again, and what that looks like, we don't necessarily know, but I believe this. I know how to have an unhealthy relationship. But what a healthy relationship is, that person needs to have all of the data about me so they can make an informed, educated decision that's in their best interest.
Yeah.
And if I withhold parts of those that I deem to be, in all likelihood, something that is going to make them run away from me, that's not a level playing field, and that's not cool. And that relationship, if it ever had any potential at all, I almost doomed it. You know what I mean? And these are just decisions I made. Like, maybe they're a little too intense, black and white, but I'm like, if I connect with a partner, I mean, again, in my case, a woman, and she's down with how I'm going about things, then that's a good woman for me. If she's like, that's a little too much, then that wasn't. Kind of behind all this too is like, where's God in all this, right? Like,
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I should have probably led with that. Like, these are belief systems that I have that I took into my dating odyssey. I believe if I'm rejected or things don't work out with so-and-so over here, like, ultimately, like, that's not how that was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
You've connected with someone, I've connected with someone, and things have gone really well. And I told this person, I believe you're supposed to be in my life right now. This is exactly how this is supposed to be going.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I even answered your question about everybody's different. You're right.
Everybody's different. And I love how you circle back to, like, God is involved, because God very much is involved. And God, with recovery comes the awareness of maybe red flags in others, or even, red flags in me that before recovery I didn't see, or if I did see them, I would blow right past them because I didn't care. Right, I was driven by this need, by this pursuit that was so much deeper and bigger than I even realized. And that I have to realize that, like, God is out there doing for me what I cannot do for myself. There are certain situations that we have put ourselves in that God has come in and closed the door and been like, because I couldn't do it myself. Right?
Yeah.
I venture to say that breakup, a year and a half or whatever, almost 2 years ago now, was God doing for you what you could not do for yourself.
Without question.
Thank
you, God.
Doesn't mean I'm going to be okay with it in the moment, but if I can eventually get to that mindset, that perception, like, okay, yeah, because I would have ended that on my own.
Yep.
Right? Like, I wouldn't have ended that on my own. Or, you know what? Like, yeah, all right, I'm dating this person and, we've been on a few dates. I'm not really feeling it, but I'm going to string them along until something else comes along,
right,
which is a pattern for me. But God would cause them to say, you know what? I'm just not really feeling it. Okay, God doing for me what I cannot do for myself. Now, I will say part of this dating experience, I think one of the more uncomfortable things was going on a date with somebody and then trying to be a man of integrity and saying, hey, this isn't working out for me. I'm just not feeling it. Best of luck to you. Ending that. That's something that I struggle with. In the past, I will just ghost you. I'll ghost you, or I'll string you along until maybe I get what I want from you, and then I'll ghost you, right? But I would always ghost. I would never be upfront and honest and say, hey, I'm just not feeling this. And I had to do that. I had to practice that.
Yeah.
And it was uncomfortable. It was scary. I was afraid. Like, but I got practice in doing that. And now on the other side of it, I feel so much cleaner with how I went about this whole situation, that I didn't just ghost these women.
Right.
I didn't do that. I stepped up and I said, and a lot of them took it fairly well because we had only gone on one date.
Right.
I build this up in my mind that we've been together for 6 months, a year, and now I have to end this.
Right.
Which, if that's the case, there's going to be more of a conversation. There's going to be more than just a text message of, hey, sorry, I just don't see this going anywhere.
I'd like to add, and I totally hear that. That's this little wrinkle, though, for me, and we've spoken about this before, that the fear, the terror around potentially hurting a woman and disappointing a woman and saying, hey, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me, right? We touched on it there in a sort of universal, that's uncomfortable, right, sort of way, which it is. My experience was, and still is, that there is adolescent trauma around my relationship with women. There's mother enmeshment, ACA stuff, right? So it's
adult children of alcoholics.
Right, thank you. So like, there's a difference between like this is just kind of generic. There's a difference to me between a character defect and like a laundry list trait or something more. It's not just hard for me to let a woman, I'm not interested in her. It is hard. I will have bamboo put underneath my fingernails hard before I do that. There's something traumatic, little boy, into my bone marrow terror about it. I don't know how to put it into words necessarily, but I think if somebody hears it, they're like, I will do anything else but that, because there's something misaligned there back in the day. And it has nothing to do with, so I can keep the door open to be sexual with them. It's not that. It is being conditioned almost maybe in a pre-verbal way of like, I don't want to disappoint potentially and hurt a woman because they have such profound power. Even I will put their needs, emotional needs, physical needs first, even if they're real or imagined. I'm sensitive to whether a woman is into me or not. I have married or stayed connected to a woman for a decade longer than if I was healthy and mature and had courage and operated in integrity, I would have said, this isn't working for me. But I was not empowered in my autonomy as a healthy man to say, this isn't working for me. It's very difficult to set like that boundary around a woman.
Let's see where this goes, because I've got this picture in my mind of like the little boy close, because like the little boy is alive and well in both of us, right?
Yep.
It was alive, right? And it's almost like that whole idea of like, okay, these women were clearly into me. These women, the women that I had to be like, hey, sorry, I'm going to go a different route. They were asking me, hey, when are we going to hang out again? And it's almost like that little boy closing the door on his mom, or a figure of somebody saying, hey, I want to be there. And it's like that little boy closing the door on that. And not wanting to, because I can totally relate to the idea of, if somebody's into me, well, who am I to say no? Because I don't know when this is going to come along again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's little boy stuff. Totally. Little boy stuff, just wanting to fill that mom hole.
It's interesting. And I know just off the cuff, like the choosing to like close the door. Again, what I struggle with is it's not a conscious, I do not feel that part of me empowered to reject or say no a woman. I can't even consider it. Like if they're like, I want you, I need you, and I don't mean it in a physical way, like I'm into you, I'd be like, okay, I guess I have to kind of go with you. That sounds ridiculous and almost laughable, but that is my mom. I would, and I'm not blaming her, but truly I was conditioned to meet my mom's emotional needs. A woman's emotional needs supersede my own for so long at such a depth. Now I own this. This is mine. This is my responsibility now. So I'm not sitting here like a victim, but this continues to be the deep challenge where, like, so I dated the one woman and she was lovely. And ultimately, like you, I reached a point where I knew that I wanted to continue a platonic, supportive friendship with her, but I needed to set some kind of boundary. And I sensed correctly that she wanted to have more than that with me, which is flattering, but that wasn't going to work for me. And this was incredibly difficult to have that conversation with that person. And to other people, it's just very normalized, like, hey, this is right. Back to practice, back to experiences. I've never had experiences, or had the tools, actually, rather, to say, I've never had the health, the personal relationship with self to say, that doesn't work for me, I'm sorry. God bless you, like, just, and like, let it go, right? That seems simple. But I think when people have certain wounds, it's almost impossible. It's almost like step one, powerless. That sounds like a cop-out, but I maintain, like, no, there's something there, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I can't say no to you. I would rather like lead you on and just to close that door, to have healthy, assertive boundaries around a woman is it's a challenge.
Or wait, or I'll like, this was a pattern for me, is like, I'll wait for you to slip up and then I'll use that as an excuse. All the while I'm over here doing everything under the sun that I shouldn't be.
Yep.
But I'm going to wait for you to mess up. And then that's going to be my out.
Yeah. I'll say this, we didn't say on it, but we didn't touch on it. No duh, right? All of these things that we're talking about, setting boundaries, ending a connection with someone, and ending a dating relationship with someone is made easier and cleaner by not being physical at an inappropriate time.
Yep.
Right? Like no duh, right?
100%.
But in the past, you and I both probably would have been, if I could have been physical on date number 1, let's say, and I didn't do a lot of dating, I would have done that. And then even then I would have suspected that person isn't for me. And later on had some hemming and hawing like, hey, and hope they figured it out and all that. And it's very muddy. It's very hurtful. It's very selfish. It's very unhealthy. It's,
very, very much. And I will say, like, in my experience, in those 5-6 dates that I went on, the only person that I kissed was my partner now. None of the other ones made it that far, even though maybe even I felt like I could have. But we never got to that point with any of the other ones. And that made me feel clean in how I was handling myself in those situations.
Yeah, I agree. Same.
And that, okay, cool. Like now, then the physical side comes in, right? And, it's like, okay, what is that? And it's different for everybody. What does that look like, right? Like what does it look like as far as disclosing the information that I need to disclose, right? Kissing, all the way down to the act of sex. And I remember you and me having a conversation after I had made a move and I had kissed the partner that I'm with now. And you challenged me. I still remember this phone call, and I knew it and I didn't take offense to it. And it was very helpful and it was a good reminder. But like, Alex, this seems like it's heating up. Before you do anything else, man, he's like, you even said, Alex, I will chew you out.
I did say that.
You said, Alex, I will give you the business if you do not disclose before things go any further. And it was in that moment of, now what helped was I knew that about myself. I knew that was the truth, that I needed to do that. But it helped to be reminded of that in the moment.
Right. Can I interject? Like, I know the answer to this for anybody. Like, why though? What's why is that important?
I mean, for me, it's that whole idea of giving them an informed decision.
Absolutely. That's part of it. Correct. That's not wrong. I was thinking, because I remember that conversation. Well, because I knew based upon what you said.
Spot there, and I didn't have.
No.
I didn't have the recovery gold star answer.
You got it. You're right. So they can make an informed decision. But that person at that time, like I knew it by talking to you, right? I know you well enough that person was special. There was a potential there. It was something different.
Yeah.
And if it could if it could grow and be that thing, right? And how do you quantify this? But we know what we're talking about, right? This person's special. Don't fuck it up. And the surest way to fuck that up is to have sex with her and not tell it, like, do it right.
Yeah.
Do it right. If you believe, because we dated some people where they're like, I'm practicing it and they're not special. And I don't mean that to be mean. It's actually just like, it's just kind of not going to happen. It's not there. Okay. This person, we felt something. We both knew we did. That demands that you do this the right way. And that is, I do not want to have to go back after I did X, Y, and Z and backtrack and say, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Because that is not going to go well. And that may kill it literally before it even gets off the ground.
Yeah.
And because I cared about you and that relationship, I want you to experience, I want you to be happy in it, know? So that's just the point I wanted to make there. And you got it. You knew it. You did it.
Yeah. And that was, but I do specifically still remember that conversation and being like, and just remember being how scared I was to do that.
I know.
Right? Like, and you want to talk about like battling to stay present, right? Because so I knew when I was going to do it, right? I knew, all right, this is the 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever date it was. I don't remember which one it was, but I knew. And then it comes down to like, all right, when do I tell them? Right. And I remember asking you guys this question, like, what do you guys recommend? Like, for start of the date, end of the date, the middle of the date. And it's like, I think I ended up doing it like in the middle of the date. You know, we were together a couple hours before I did it, and really struggling to try to stay present. My challenge then was to like stay present with her, even though knowing in my mind, okay, I'm going to share these things with you and I'm really fucking scared to do this. Oh God, you know, or it's like, there's that black and whiteness in me of, well, how about I share it at the beginning so we can get it over with? And if she doesn't want it, well, then at least I'm not going to waste my time opposed to doing it at the end of the date. Because what if we have this great date and then I tell her at the end of the date and then she's like, oh, fuck you, dude, I'm out. Like, and then I'm like, well, I just wasted my time with you. We're not going to have been doing something else, you know, like. And that's a little extreme thinking on my part. That's very addictive thinking on my part, right? Trying to control the situation.
It's fearful thinking. It's I don't reject me. Little boy fear.
Yeah. And then in sharing that, which, you know, it was what I was really afraid of was like the barrage of questions. Right? Okay, I've opened this door up now. And now, and I told my partner that I'm with now, I said, hey, look, like, this is not an exclamation point. We're going to have more conversations around this. You have a voice. You are allowed to ask questions. Again, this is not exclamation point. I'm telling you this because I need to tell you this, and then we're done, and we're just never going to touch on it again.
Mm-hmm.
You have a voice. You are allowed to ask questions. But like, that was scary too. Because you don't know what the other person's thinking or what they're going to ask. And like, that's kind of scary. But also then, and I'm a shout out to Mike, who gave me this information of like, put up a boundary around like, hey, okay, so I've disclosed this information to you. This is not an exclamation point. This is not a period. This is a ... We will have more conversations around this. You have a voice. You are allowed to answer. You're allowed to use your voice. However, if you ask, there are parts of my story that are very sensitive to me. If you ask me a question and I am uncomfortable with answering that, I will let you know, hey, I'm uncomfortable with answering that right now. Let me get back. And like, that made a lot of sense to me. And that like almost like empowered me. Like, okay, I still have some power here.
Yep.
Because this is what I do too. Like, I give away my power.
Yep.
Like, I give away my power. And now it's almost like little boy, like, okay, yep, okay, yep, this is what we're going to do. Like, instead of being like, hey, you're allowed to ask questions, right. But hey, if I'm uncomfortable, I'm gonna
especially
let you know.
Once she seems to show you that she's staying.
Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Like, foundationally, it's taking off in a healthy way. Then I'm presented with a whole new set of challenges, and that is, like you said, how do I remain adult and centered and empowered in a healthy, balanced way with her affection and approval, which is not a given. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, let's be equals here. It's peekaboo. Keep
I
coming
love
back.
that still, man.
Keep
I love
coming
that.
back.
And I'm really interested. Like, my partner texted me today and said she wants to join me on the podcast. Like, I'm really excited to have her on, because I want to, like, I think in all of this, I don't know if I was like, okay, what are you thinking? What's going on in your head? Because I'm really curious to see what our partners were thinking and what was going through their head when we disclosed this information to them.
Right.
Like, what's going on in your head right now? What are you thinking? Like, because I'm sure nobody has ever said, hey, I'm a sex addict.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right? Like, welcome to my life.
I'm sure that I was very different. And she's told me. I'm sure I was very unique in my courtship.
Yeah. Very unique, dude.
Yeah.
Very unique. And it's interesting too, because you look at it from one side of, like, people really appreciate the honesty. That's one of the things that I really learned from all of this, is like, people appreciate the honesty, especially in today's day and age. Now it all depends on the age group of people you're dating and things like that. But people, like females especially, like, really appreciate the honesty, the upfront honesty.
I agree. I don't know exactly what your experience was, but by the time I was honest, I had a very clear and correct idea that my girlfriend is really significantly emotionally intelligent and emotionally healthy. She's a certified coach. She spoke the language, although not 12-step. She's healthy. She appreciates honesty. She appreciates inventory. She appreciates personal responsibilities. Things. There's a common thread of dialogue. So I felt safer, I think, in disclosure, however it was going to go. That it was not unfamiliar concepts to her. I read in a book, I don't know if we talked about this, but I've considered it, and I think it's true. Is it Richard Hatch? The couples in recovery, dating in recovery, or something like that. But the author makes the point that their opinion was that couples who are dating, couples really in general, essentially need to be, within reason, equally healthy. Now, obviously, on a random Wednesday, I'm maybe going to be in a different place than my partner is going to be. But by and large, for a relationship to be healthy and to work, both people need to be, within reason, equally emotionally intelligent and emotionally healthy. I think that's true. And I sense that in my dating, that was revealed to me again, that this person was, okay, you're a good, I'm interested in you, as I was getting to know her. And so that makes the revelations, the disclosure, the next steps a little more easy, a little more easy, still scary. My own experience, I disclosed to my girlfriend on our third date that I had betrayed my wife, that I left her, that I had an affair, and every nugget of information around that. And I said to her, so we're sitting on a bench by a lake. It was very picturesque. And I'm like, hey, want to drop this on you? Right? It's funny now. I say that, though, I can laugh about it now. I wouldn't have said it on the third date. I knew that was premature. I did it, however, though, because we shared a world where there was going to be a crossover, and there was a very strong potential that this person would hear some of this stuff from another source, and I did not want that to happen. I wanted that, whatever that truth, to come from me. I respected her enough, and I'm going to give it to you a little earlier than I normally would. But I had no problems, really. Like, this is it. And kind of like letting go and trusting, like, if it's too much for you and you're like out, that's how that's supposed to go. That's going to hurt. But because I was not physical with her, I wasn't emotionally dependent on her, and it wasn't going to kill me, because I had already just had a year and a half of being in solitude without the affections and love of a woman. I didn't want her to do that.
Yeah.
But she needed to know everything about me, because I really wanted it to work. And so that's information she needed to have. And she did not run away. She appreciated it. She said thanks. So she respected it. I don't know what really fully went through her head, but she didn't go away. And then I, on the fourth date, maybe like 2 weeks later, then I dropped and let me tell you more about sex and love addiction, 12-step recovery. Here's what, because she asked me a very important question after I disclosed that, the betrayal on the third date. She said, she took it all in, and she said, I have a question for you. And I said, shoot. She said, can you tell me, what are you doing so as to ensure that you never do that again? I was like, that's a very valid question, right? I think there was actually had two questions. I forget what it was, but that's the one that stuck with me. Like, it's a very fair question, right? Like, hey, lady, I'm interested in dating you, and I just told you this, and you're asking me, how do I know that you're not going to do that again? I did not go into I can't guarantee you because I'm powerless, like whatever. That didn't, in my head, sound well right then. But, I shared in a rough sort of way about, I'm committed to healing, to changing. I see a therapist, and I gave her 4 or 5 examples. Again, I don't know how much weight they had, and I wasn't trying to like pacify her fears and control her emotional reactivity to what I just said. But I thought that was a wonderful, fair question. What are you doing to not do that?
Yeah.
And since then, we've had many conversations like, this is what you need to look for, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I don't go to my home group meeting anymore, if I don't call and you don't hear this name, and if you don't hear, Big Panda, if you don't hear John, if you don't hear, Mina, if you don't hear Andy, and you don't see me on the phone, and you don't see me doing this and this and this, these are red flags that you need to look for.
Yeah. It's funny, like, because I remember, like, it was our second date. And we were talking, we were on a hike, and we were talking, and I was kind of sharing a little bit about the mom issues. And my partner asked me this question, which I thought was, how have those issues manifested in your life? And I essentially went into, I look for women for validation, which is essentially along the lines of sex and love addiction. Mm-hmm. So, like, I thought that was really interesting, like, that I almost kind of prefaced this issue with her without fully coming out and saying I'm a sex addict. But I think that I had laid the groundwork up to that point. And another point that I want to make in all of this is that, like, my problem being because I am an addict, because there is shame that I still feel around my addictions, I am so focused on those. I am so focused to the point where, like, I think that those things define me. I am so much more. Jeff, you are so much more than our addictions. So much more, right? I'm a good person. I'm a good friend. I care about other people, right? Like, I'm a hockey player. I have so many more aspects to my life of who I am as a person than just an addict. Mm-hmm. And when I show up in this practice of dating in a clean way, I'm showing my authentic self as to who I am. I'm showing you the real me. So when we get to the point of being able to tell you, hey, here's something that I struggle with, sex addiction, they've already got all this other data that shows that, like, I'm a good person. And that they're objective. They've got almost that 10,000 view of me as a person, opposed to this in-tight personal view that I have of myself.
That's a really good point.
So, like, yeah, I'm terrified because I'm focused on this one shameful aspect of my life when there's 250 other aspects of my life that I've shown this person up to this point that they are basing their decision off of, to then when I get to this point of telling you, hey, I'm a sex and love addict, they're going, okay, what are you doing around that? Right. Clearly you've done work on yourself, right? Because in all of the other ways I've showed up in this experience is my clean, authentic self.
Right.
Clearly that I've done some work on myself. I am aware of what my issues are. So then they've got this 10,000 foot view of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And I think as addicts, I think people in general get caught up in the way that I view myself. I think that everybody views me how I view me, which is what's the truth and what's a lie. This is not the truth.
Yeah.
It's not the truth.
That's deep. I mean, totally agree with all that.
Deep.
Right? No, it was deep.
Right? Like, yeah, it was funny because as you were talking, I thought about that point, and I was like, I never really necessarily thought of it like that.
Yeah, I almost want to, and not to challenge it because it's correct, right? And again, this gets really deep.
Podcast is over.
At the,
I'm just kidding.
I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's like one day at a time. Keep coming back. We move forward with each other, like, and just we're doing the best we can, right? We talk. Yep. Everything you said was totally correct. There's some weird sweet spot. I don't know what it is. Because I still have shame, you're right, around my behaviors. And I have a view of myself through shame. But also it's colored through the experiences that I've had in my addiction and the harm that it's caused. Okay. And I pray I won't ever lose that. I won't ever have the 10,000 foot view that doesn't have that cringe to it.
Sure.
Sure. I hope that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm going with that is my girlfriend today, I can almost tell, like, we've grown, we communicate really well. And she's like, I don't care. She's not one of us. So and I've never betrayed her, right? So this is amazing. Mm-hmm. She has my trust and I have her trust, and I've earned it. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to me. However, I say this with love, and I've basically told her this, but not in a condescending sort of way, but it's the truth. Our people, our partners, really do not understand what this thing really is and what it really looks like. They want to, even though we've been honest. I've been fully honest with this woman. Case in point, my last wife, I was honest and transparent with her, and I told her everything about my behavior and my addiction. And after all that dust settled, she said something really profound to me. She said, Jeff, you told me everything you told me the truth. You told me everything about your stuff. And the truth is that I had no idea, really. I could not understand it. I really, like, you hear it, but you don't get it.
Yeah.
And that's not a threat. That's not ominous, but it's something that I consider, and I don't want her to get it. Do you know what I mean? You and I at our worst, I don't want her to have that experience to really understand. I've given her pamphlets like, hey, read this, right? Or check this shit out. But I think people kind of ignorantly and naively like nod their head, and they're like, oh, you just keep doing your thing and it's good. And I don't even know if that kind of makes any sense, right? But it's my responsibility. I'll hold on to it. And I don't mean that to like that I still hold on to this like, shit, you're a piece of shit. I'm shaming myself. That's not it at all.
Yeah, no.
But I'm going to just choose to believe that she does not understand, because she wasn't touched by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know though. And it's my responsibility and I take that very seriously. I don't know if that kind of makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. You're right. I don't know if there's an understanding around the hurt and destruction. I know like you said, I know firsthand what this can do to myself and to other people around me. And yeah, thank God that I have not brought those behaviors in to inflict that hurt. And now it is my job. We've talked about this before. It is my job to safeguard this relationship now. And like I do take that very seriously, because I don't want to inflict that hurt onto somebody else. I don't.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I never thought of it like that.
And again, that you can mind fuck yourself all day about what is that?
Because you're right. Because I could go in and I could give her books and hey, read this, listen to this, watch this, right? Like, until you've actually gone through it and gone through that fire and have had those experiences, you never really truly will know,
right,
what this thing is capable of doing. And not saying this to doom and gloom, right? Like, that's not the point of this either. But like, also too, like, I have to have an awareness around, hey, that ditch is right there.
Yeah,
I'm the same distance away from the ditch that I've always been. I just have to maintain rules of the road.
Right. Fear-based recovery to me doesn't work long term, and nor do I take these actions. I just want to make this point. I think you and I agree on this. I don't take these actions or have this intention because I'm afraid I'm going to lose this relationship, or I don't want to hurt her. That is not the core motivation behind doing any of this, right?
Correct.
We care about it. It's part of it. But it first and foremost, I just want to make this point for me so I don't forget it. If she goes or stays, if she's crying or happy, that's all. It's great, but it's secondary. I don't want to live in this behavior. It is me and me alone. And within my higher power, it's I want sobriety for me.
Yeah,
Just period. That's it. And that
100%.
Don't want to get too far away from that. Like,
yep.
I'm sober, so I have this girlfriend now who loves me. Yeah, she loves me. I'm sober. She thinks I'm great. Right? Yeah. That's nice.
At the end of the day, I have to remember that I'm doing this for me.
Yep.
And that I got into this for me, and that this is for me. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Got to do this for me first and foremost.
I have a question for you. I almost want to ask this. I don't know if this is going long, but we're gonna keep rambling. So, you and I have. How do I phrase the question? So you and I had we're in recovery, and we have, let's say, dating plans, right, around physical intimacy and what that looks like. In my case, and it's just kind of amusing to me, but I had my structure and my plan for a reason. I knew what my motives were and what my intention was. And I did not kiss my girlfriend until our 6th date, which actually even surprises me. I'll be honest with you. 6th date, right? And even then, she had to like set it up and say something. And in hindsight, it's very funny. She's like, I think I was complaining, saying, I don't even know what we're doing. I don't even know if we're dating. Are we friends? I'm not sure. And she said, yeah, that is a weird question. I'm not sure if we are dating because we haven't even kissed yet. And she said it in this sort of way, like with a little twinkle in her eye, like, hey, dummy. And I started rambling and talking, and I was like, oh, that's it. That's my in, right? Okay. And then I kissed her. Okay. So here's where I'm going. Finally kissed her. And what I just want to say, what I felt really good about that was that when I did kiss her, she knew everything about me. Everything that, to the best of my, like everything that was important that she needed to know about me before I kissed her. Okay. Because to me, kissing is a very big deal. That's to me, though. And here's where I'm going with the question. We since then have been physically intimate. Now, other people, everybody's different, right? She has said to me that kissing or some sort of physical intimacy, even sex, would be part of the dating process, part of the discernment. Like, I don't really know you all the way yet. I'm not sure you're going to be the person for me, but that can involve sexual activity. I knew for me, this is kind of a hard line based on my past first step experiences, the pendulum was a little extreme out this way, and I'm okay with that. That just had to be my truth, right? But she was kind of like, yeah, that's interesting, because I told her, like, once I kiss you and once we're sexual, like, that's a really big deal, and like, you kind of, I don't know what I said, but like, you're my person now. That's it. Like, I'm committed to you, right? Mm-hmm. And since then, she has joked and said, like, oh, well, when you said that, I was kind of like, well, I wasn't sure yet. So we were physical, but I'm still mulling it over. My point is, what has your partner said? What was her experience with physical intimacy as part of dating for her with you? Did it differ from your intentions around it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I phrase the question?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I remember we had this conversation. It was our 2nd date. Now, I classify our dates a little different because there is a physical distance between us. Mm-hmm. So we spent a lot of time on the phone. By the time our 2nd date rolled around, we had probably spent at least 10 plus hours on the phone with each other. Okay. So in my mind, those were dates to me, essentially, sure. Right? So, and I remember I brought it up. I said, what do you how do you feel about, I can still remember where we were sitting, what we were doing. I said, how do you feel about getting physical? Just like, what does that look like for you? What do you need? And she was really big on the emotional piece. Sex is emotional for me. I want to have that emotional connection before I have sex with somebody. I don't want to just, it's empty without it. And that's not what I'm trying to do in my life. So that was kind of how she prefaced it to me. And I was like fully on board with that. And then but I had not disclosed yet the sex addiction, and we had kissed before that. We had kissed on that 2nd date. We had kissed. And it's funny too, because I could feel the energy from her on our 1st date that she wanted me to kiss her. And everything in my body was like, no, don't do it. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because I didn't want to. Because I knew for me too, once I got physical with somebody, like, okay, now I'm going from, hey, I'm having this experiences by going on these dates with other people. But once we even get physical, hey, the attention now is on this relationship.
Hmm?
Because I don't want to. I'm not just going to be running around making out with everybody. That's part of it. So, and I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but it was essentially like, I don't know. I know for me, I don't think that there's that old tale of like, well, you got to test drive the car before you buy it. I don't buy into that. That's my. I don't buy into that. Is a healthy man in recovery today. Like, I don't believe that. Well, yeah, everything else emotionally we're doing really well, we're connecting, but I need to have sex with her before I can really figure out if she's the one that I want to pursue.
Right.
Like, I don't buy into that, and I don't believe that she bought into that either. I don't believe so. Just from how much I know her, but we didn't actually have that specific conversation around.
Right.
Is that part of your dating? I don't really think that it necessarily was.
Obviously, again, everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
People can allow that to be part of the discernment process. I felt pretty clean. Again, we talked about this, knowing that I had to have emotional intimacy outpaced physical intimacy by far. Right. But it just had almost extremely the extreme swing of the pendulum. Like I verbalized that term. Like, I'm telling you, and not everybody has to do that, but I believe I had to do that because of, again, first step experiences. Like, that's just what that needs to look like.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Because then that could pump the brakes on, well, I don't really need to tell her just yet.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's 6 months down the road and I still haven't disclosed.
Yeah. And it's going to be a hell of a lot worse than if you've been physical that whole time and then you drop some other unspoken truth that you needed to drop before you touch somebody, it's not going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, plus for me, one of my inner circles is sex outside of a committed relationship.
Right.
And yes, that has to do with infidelity, but also too, if I'm single and I'm not in a committed exclusive relationship with this person and I'm having sex with them, that's inside the circle.
Right.
So like there needs to be a conversation with, and for her and I, it was, I don't know if it was, I think we were like officially committed, but I know that we were exclusive. We had one of our dates, we like deleted our dating apps together.
Yep.
And said, okay, hey, I'm not seeing anybody. She's not seeing anybody else. We are now exclusive. Because I knew that for me, that had to be part of it.
Yeah. Same. I just thinking about this. I was dating some other women, or attempting to date. Like, I went on a speed dating event.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said that we kissed on date number 6, right? Let's say I went on like 2 or 3 dates with other women before that date number 6, because again, once I kiss somebody, and this is just a choice, not everybody's got to go along with this, but if I'm making out with somebody, I don't feel clean about, and on Friday night I'm going out with Betty Sue, like, oh, something ain't right there for me. And I think my sponsor challenged me, and another program friend challenged me, that to date, I did not want to just attach to the first decent experience date potential that I encountered. Because that's old Jeff programming, right? She likes me. She's cute. She's willing to see me again. Maybe she even wants to kiss me or something. Boom. Put a fork in it. I'm done. Let's call it. Experiment over. Let's go. Right. And then attach. Right. And this seems revolutionary to me. Other people maybe do it all the time. Is like just truly discerning and shopping. Like, yeah, you're cool. All right. I don't trust myself in that way. Or I didn't at the beginning of this process. Like, okay, I got some data from you and it's pretty good, but I want to go actually date 4 or 5 other people because I don't know, because I can lie to myself about that because you seem into me. Right. In fact, the first woman I dated, she's wonderful. And like, we're friends today, but that almost could have been that trap of, okay, this is good enough. All right.
Yep.
We're done. And I was challenged myself and by not being physical, I was able to do that without being lit up with a lot of activation and neuroses and guilt. Like, okay, I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
And that's not said with any kind of malice, right? I'm like, I've been clean with you. I've been operating in integrity. And I've been honest, like, I'm just dating you to get to know you. I'm not trying to use you or hurt you, and I'm also going to go date somebody else over here until it was clear, like, okay, we're funneling this into I'm exclusive with you. Yeah. This is a thing now, and I'm certainly no expert in any of this, but I'm glad I feel pretty good about the like how I did it though. You know, there's definitely some bumps. I disclosed when I finally did have some communication with one of the women that I needed to set a boundary and say that our interaction needs to change because I'm seeing somebody and I like them. I did that in a way that I regret. I just kind of dumped it on them in a car and they had nowhere to go to process it. And I didn't mean to. It wasn't mean spirited, but I got some feedback after the fact, like, oh shit, I didn't do that well. Trial and error. I don't like to make mistakes, right? I'm scared. But a lot of this is, let's be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Instinctively, right? So
yeah. And so then it's like, all right, so we get through the fears of putting ourselves out there and the fear of disclosure, and okay, you know, we've got the practice and we've stuck to our plan, and we're okay, cool. Now we found these people, and okay, now these people are our people, right? And not that I necessarily had this thought in my mind that like, okay, cool, we're everything's good now, right? That whole idea of like, once I find who I'm supposed to be with, magically fixed, right? My problems are gone. My fear is gone. Oh, it's going to be easy and sunshine and rainbows.
I won't lust after anyone else.
No, and we're going to be, yes. Peekaboo. Yep. That has not been my experience. There's still fear there. Even inside a committed relationship, there is still fear. Not fear that this person isn't right for me, not necessarily, right? But there's fear there. There's fear there. We're still getting to know each other. You know, am I going to share something? All right. So for instance, like finances, that's not something that's a big issue for me. I'm very insecure in that. And okay, so she's seen these other sides of me, and cool, we're committed. We're things are going well. We're getting to know each other. But now there's these other things that are popping up that like I need to disclose to you. My financial status. I don't feel real great on my financial status. How's she going to take that? Is that going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Is that going to be a red flag for her? Right. So like, even in this relationship, there's fears. There are fears. It's not all hunky dory. There's fears there. And so now it's like, okay, so now it's like, you know, we've gotten through the first part in finding the person and putting ourselves out there. And now it's like, okay, shit, there's still fear.
Some ways even more. Like now the real work begins.
Yeah.
Right. Which kind of like, that sounds like a really downer, discouraging sort of thing. But the dopamine brain dump isn't as pronounced as it was, right? So now it's leveling off and things are a little more regulated. I imagine it is for you as well. Yeah. So now we're coming down to choices and actions taken predicated on those choices on like a daily basis. Like, okay, and it's not as sexy and when it's just a brain dump of chemicals, it's actually easy. It's all easy. Everything's okay, and the fear isn't there quite so much. Or, you know, hey, like she loves me, and even if I don't have any money or whatever. Once that shit sort of stabilizes, all that stuff that was there before, it's important for me to make that point always. There's nothing new under the sun in this relationship that's going on. It's just unearthed or bumping up against things now, or things are bumping up against it. And it's challenging. It's frustrating. Like how you communicate about that, how you find the courage to be like, okay, this is the next level. At first, the big disclosures were, hey, I'm sex and love addict, maybe. And then lower tiers are like, all right, we get into this, you know, money, or, you know, I don't like dogs, or I don't, you know, whatever it is, but we deal with it. And there's a foundational built, I think, that we're together and trust, God willing, that person, you know, by then that's like, yeah, okay, well, we're going to work through that. We're going to walk through that. You know, you and I have spoken about this. Much to my frustration, there's some elements of my neuroses that have actually gotten louder, like body dysmorphia stuff. We talked about this. We're like, so she loves me now, and she does. She's like, "Oh, Jeff, I'm so attracted to you. It's great." And all this body dysmorphia was there before, but my brain is saying, "Well, she's here. She's into me. She's drinking the Jeff Kool-Aid. She says that I'm attractive. That should just go to sleep and go away forever. Like it should just quiet down." In fact, it does not. In fact, it seems to be louder. Maybe because the stakes are higher, because she's really special, and it also speaks to the depth of that core faulty belief system, or the shame. Like, I'm sitting there and, I have my shirt off or something, I'm changing clothes, and I just feel like a bloated, like, manatee, and just, that's my brain. I'm like, oh my God, I'm hideous. And she's like, what are you even talking about? Like, that's insane. And like, she's smart enough to know, like, she can tell me that a million times. It doesn't, it's a problematic belief system I have, but it's louder at times in this connection than when I was just dating her, because I think I'm more attached to her now. So it's, I don't know if you can relate to that.
I can. Definitely. We've had those conversations. I'm staring into myself in the mirror going, I am gross.
How do you even like gross?
And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, I love your body. Like, I love what you got going on. Like, but again, she could tell me that a million times until she's blue in the face. But until I believe that about myself, it's not going to stick, And so that's something that I'm working through. And, there's some give and take there for me too. Like, I don't have to be so rigid. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay. Things are okay. I don't have to be so rigid, because while getting into this relationship, one of my big things and one of my big goals this year was my physical health and losing some weight and getting down. And I did not hit my goal this year of getting down to 200 pounds. I've actually gained weight and getting in this relationship. Now it's not just getting into the relationship. It's starting a new job, a new routine, that plays into it. But like, I did not hit that goal this year of losing more weight. I actually gained about 15 pounds. And so now I'm learning how to manage that and be like, okay, what can I do about it? Do I want to go back to the extremes that I was doing it so I can get this off? Or am I okay with being this way?
Right. I love, actually, I don't know how real it was, not that you're lying, but that you laughed about that, right? Like, that signified I gained 15 pounds, right? Like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Like, right? Okay, so you didn't. You and I talk about this sometimes, like, so what? Right? And that seems, without context, like dismissive or lazy. That's not it. But I have such a death grip on that. I didn't get my 200 pounds. And what does that mean then? Fill in the blank. It means that I'm bad. I'm not worthy of love. Like, or else, right? I set goals, but I got to be careful. They can be dangerous goals because I don't know. I've attached an expectation to them as to whether or not I meet them and what that means.
Yeah, the rigidity around. I don't need to be so rigid, because if I was so rigid, if me gaining this 15 pounds, I would just be a complete asshole to myself, and that's not helping anything in my life.
Right. And a different perspective, and again, this is easier said than done, or easier for me over here because I'm not you, right? But like, okay, well, I gained 10 pounds. I didn't hit my goal. I could simply view it through that one frickin' micro prism slant, or I gained 10 pounds, but I also switched careers, and I'm succeeding and having a positive impact on people's lives over here, and am validated by my superiors. I've entered in a new relationship in which I've conducted myself correctly and soberly. I've won some championships. It's not one or all or nothing, or one or the other.
Yeah.
Like, there's, okay, I didn't do that. I didn't gain 50 pounds. I have to do these things, not to rationalize or justify, but to try to stay in some sort of middle self-compassion balance, because otherwise my brain, the default setting is, you didn't. And it's that I just struggle with it. I bring that to the party. If I say I was going to get down to 200 and I didn't, There's no margin there. There's no wiggle room. That's you didn't and you didn't. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
No.
That's
no. And then also too, like looking at it as like, okay, Alex, well, like, is there something you can do about it? Are you willing to do anything about it? And I got to be honest with myself around that question.
Yeah.
Right? Because my awareness does not always match my willingness. And there's some areas of my life.
Write that down on the chalkboard. That's a great quote.
I've shared that with you before.
I'm just trying to. Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's
it. But like,
that's a good one.
Like, that's a good one though. Like,
yeah.
because, and I got to be. This is me being honest with myself. Recovery, being honest with myself. Right. My awareness does not match my willingness around my weight right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that I'm not willing to do again. Right at this moment.
Right.
And I have to be okay with that. I have to be honest with myself. Okay, Alex, there are things that we could do. If you are that uncomfortable in this situation, in the weight that you've gained, there are steps that I can take. However, with the things that I have going on in my life right now, those kind of take a little bit of a back burner.
Yep.
And okay, all right.
I love it. I mean, like kudos, right? That's exactly what like healthy looks like to me. I find that, and here's what sucks about it, is almost like directly proportionate. My ability to do that, what you just sort of demonstrated in that example of having some situation in life and basically like water off a duck's back with some sort of balance and grace. My ability to do that is in correlation to my relationship with self. Like, no duh, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm not okay or my inadequacy is flared up, not even around my weight, but let's just, if I'm not okay, I simply cannot do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on almost all topics. Like my girlfriend could say like, oh, hey, this guy, ex-friend of mine, he's passing through town and he wants to spend the night Tuesday and catch up. I'm going to get a drink with him. I want you to know about it. It's platonic. Everything on the surface there, everything is okay. This is an example. When I'm not okay, like old Jeff once upon a time, I light up. I'm not okay with that because all of a sudden something's getting activated. Little Jeff fears, little like, no, that's not, I'm not good enough. She likes him. He's got more money than me. He's got a 6-pack or whatever. It's just crazy. That shows me. So always, no duh, right? The work it's always about you and I. It's me. How am I doing? The healthier I am, the more loving and compassionate I am with self and in that sync with me, higher power, like everything is changed. My perspective around everything is different. No duh, right? Like, there you go, kids. This concludes the podcast. Yeah, that's the really hard work, right? And we talk like you said, like I often don't know that I had an expectation, period. I didn't even know I had an expectation about anything until it wasn't met. And then I have an emotional reaction. That's my first indication where I'm like, oh, she did not say what I wanted her to say there. Or the mechanic told me something different was wrong with my car and I did not think it was going to go that way, whatever it is. So again, seeing that and how am I doing? How is Jeff doing? Am I okay? I told you before we started recording today, like for whatever reason, I'm a barber. I'm like, I didn't cut haircuts well today. I'm feeling inadequate, feeling old, whatever. Like all that stuff seems closer to the surface. I can feel it vibrating within me. And that's, I'm going to hear things differently. And I'm going to be vulnerable because my addiction almost universally is activated most powerfully by my sense of inadequacy and shame. Like I'm not enough. So paying attention, call that 10-step, whatever. Yeah. Keep coming back, being honest. I'm so grateful for you, for our friendships, you and others. Cause like the 5th step way in which we communicate consistently, like it's automatic. It doesn't even take work anymore. Like we talk, even though we did say that because we're in relationships, we talk less, but still a lot. I see through the bullshit. I don't get too far into the rough, right? I've built my life in such a way that it's actually difficult to get that far into the rough. And that's fantastic. Because left to my own devices, I can be very blind. And that's scary. So
it is.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very, very scary. We don't got to do this alone.
We don't.
God is
In
involved
fact,
too.
Let's not. Right.
Let's not. God is involved.
Feels pretty good.
Feels pretty good, man. That felt good. There was, I don't know, there's something else that I kind of wanted to go into to talk about.
What do you think was it? I mean, like
the L word.
Oh, okay.
Love.
I think your listeners were
sharing that with a partner, and the fear that is involved in that, and the thought process around that. Because my partner and I have said that we love each other, right? And old me would have been like, whoa, pump the fucking brakes. What are you doing? Stop this. Right here, right now. Don't even go there. Because I think that in my mind, there's a heavier expectation around the relationship. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Actually, I really appreciate it and really can relate. So let me backtrack just a smidge and give a context for how I want to answer that. I think objectively, I did a really nice job with a dating plan around how I was going to conduct myself physically or not engage physically until I finally did and disclosed and all that stuff. Before then, kissing, physical intimacy. Okay, great. Check all these boxes. I'm laughing as I say this. What I realized, I had no plan around how to then emotionally regulate within balance once all of that criteria was met. I didn't know that, but a friend pointed that out to me, and I had the experience. Okay, and here's what that looks like. Shared everything I need to share. Okay, cool. Yay, I'm super sober, gold star. We kiss. Cool. We're physical. Yay. Then I think I'm done, kind of, right? Like, okay, cool. We're in. Like, you're my girlfriend now. We're exclusive. It's great. I'm feeling super sober. I dated. Yay. Again, I'm laughing. Woefully obtuse. Apparently, that's a word that I've been described as. Around, now I'm all in. Again, that's my tendency to rapid emotional attachment. I did really good at brake pumping to get to this place, but now I'm there. We're there. And my experience was that emotionally I had no checks and balances to kind of regulate that once it was established and legit.
Yeah.
And I said, I love you to my girlfriend. And I felt it though. That's the thing, right? I felt it. Does that mean it's a lie? No, but I said that I love you too early. I'll just say that. I don't know when. Let's just say a month into it. And I told her this.
Yep.
And she's a healthy woman. And you were like, whoa, right? I said, I love you. I got caught up in like this. I think she was like, I don't know, having a cup of coffee, and the sun was shining through the window and her brown eyes were sparkling and she was beautiful. And it was just this charming, enchanted morning. And I just, I love you, And she was like, no, like she called me out though. I'm like setting it up in a humor sort of way, but she had a boundary. She's like, we're not there yet. We're not there. She was into me. She didn't like run away. She didn't scold me. But she correctly called me out. She was like, we are not at that place yet where that's appropriate. And I was like, damn it, you're right. And I still, we're good, but I struggle with getting ahead of myself emotionally. I did a great job with the physical stuff. But once that has happened, emotionally, I was quick, struggled with it. And I backed off that. Now I'm at a place, let's say 2 months past beyond that, of a lot of interaction, meeting family, meeting parents, continued emotional intimacy growing with an emphasis toward, where I feel very clean today. Like we both say, I love you all the time. And it's earned, but I definitely said it. I definitely said it too soon. I felt it. The minute that I feel something, I want to just say it. I have no I just comes babbling out of my mouth like a 7-year-old, and I think it's charming and sweet. So therefore it's justifiable and okay. But she called me out on that. That was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And see, I think that's where you and I differ. Is I am not quick to the emotional stuff. I am not quick to that. I am very slow to that. I think the last relationship that I was in, the last long-term relationship I was in, it took me over a year to say those words. Not saying that I didn't feel it. But again, to me, there's a fear. I mean, this is all fear based, right? Like there's a fear there for me, right? It almost adds, all right, like this, it's like makes it more real. Like this is real.
Yep.
Right. Not saying that before I said it wasn't real or anything like that, but I think that there's a difference this time around is that I feel it. I feel it. Like I didn't feel like that I was obligated. I didn't feel like I was pressured in saying it at all. And I was the one that said it first. And we had some conversations around it, right? Like, but yeah, I am not quick to that emotional state. And to this day, I still kind of, her and I were talking about this the other night. Like she is one that when she's feeling something, she wants to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm the complete opposite. I'll just put it inside and I'll keep it there. But what I'm noticing too is, and this is, and we kind of joked about it the other night because she was like, she is very kind, very loving, always telling me how much she loves me and, what a great person I am. And I'm not quick to say those things to somebody. And there is a level of overwhelmedness for me with that. And I told her, I said, because we asked me, we were talking and she was just like, I love you. And then she was like, am I overwhelming you with that? And I said, no, it feels okay right now. Now, if we were just on the phone going, I love you, I love you, I love you. Yeah, I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. Pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know that's true for me and I need to stick to my truths. But so there are times where like it does get a little overwhelming for me anyway with that. But again, we've had conversations around that. So, but yeah, it's a scary thing, man. I was terrified. I was like almost shitting bricks when it came to that. But it was a bridge that I wanted to cross, and I was willing to. So, to each their own.
Yeah, I try to be as honest as I can and watch what are my motives, what are my intentions. Again, within human reason, right? I'm not Spock. I'm not some robot, right? But on a daily basis, like, why am I saying I love her? Do I need her to say she loves me back? Why, what's going on, right? And then after some of that work, if you will, like detaching and realizing that I can only see what I can see, right? I can't, you and I talk a lot about this. I still have a fear that I can't see the matrix and that, in fact, I'm sitting here and saying I love her and feel really clean about all of it. But 2 years from now, I'm actually going to bump up against some shit that I don't see right now as I'm talking to you and realize, oh my God, I, in fact, was just dependent on you and didn't know it. And I've been using you in some weird sort of way this whole time. My apologies. That seems really extreme and it actually terrifies the shit out of me. And the only reason I say that is because it's valid in that I've had experiences where I was doing the best I could and just didn't see that there was still operating systems and shit that was so deep and powerful within me that still had the ability to make a presence and really impact my perspectives and decision making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not in a way that's like, it's not my fault. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm like, I'm terrified of what do I not see right now that is influencing my desire to say I love you to her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hate that makes it like there's something sinister lurking there. I don't like that, but it just pops up sometimes.
Yeah.
But by and large, within reason, I feel clean and work hard and we communicate well.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did was I kind of almost like laid my recovery template over that and said, okay, I've met people in the program, take Jeff for instance, and I knew fairly quickly that I had a love for this man. I had a love for you fairly quickly on because we were sharing vulnerable, honest, open. I was very quick to tell other people around me that I love them. So, okay, so let's lay that template over my template now with this person. I feel very strongly for this person. We connect. We have similar interests. She checks the boxes. Why can't I say that I love you? If that's truly how I'm feeling, why don't I say how I'm feeling? I normally hold how I feel in So let's try the opposite.
Yeah.
Let's put my love, let's put my feelings out there for somebody. So
yeah, I appreciate you sharing your journey with me, like that we bounce these things off each other. And, in a perfect world, maybe I'd love to take to your listeners nothing but solutions, right? And maybe tonight we've posed more unknowns and questions, but it's the journey. It's a
journey.
Actually, as you were talking about it, my own answer to my own question or concern was that there is no perfect love, right? Like, let's say I love you as much as I can today. In fact, even in our friendship, we've even talked about it where I'm like, I'm mad at you right now. You know what I mean? How about, Jeff, like, you love her as best you can today and as cleanly and as honestly as whatever that is. And a year from now or 2 years from now, like, what ends up happening? How about a reminder of what I said earlier? Because that's how quickly I forgot it. And that is God is involved, right? And I have tools today, and like maybe we'll just work through that, whatever that is, whenever that happens. That is what peekaboo looks like.
Yeah, and I think that like love is a choice. Love is a choice, and it takes work. Like I have to wake up every single day and choose to love the people that I'm in relationships with.
Yep,
and that they take work, and that like there's so much more than the word, and that it is. And this is something that my partner actually brought up to me around love. She asked me, what did I think love was? And she had a really beautiful answer for it. It was, it was a decision. Waking up every day, even when I'm not feeling it. Because there's going to be days where maybe I don't feel it. Right? I'm not saying that I don't love these people. But there's going to be days where like, yeah, I'm mad at you. Or you're mad at me. And love isn't trumping all,
Yeah.
But it's a decision, right? I got to wake up every single day and make a decision to say, hey, no, I am in these relationships and I'm going to decide to work on them today, and that it's a choice.
Yeah.
We have the choice today.
That's adult, right?
Yep.
You know who takes their ball and goes home? Not who, but for me, it's like that is a wounded, scared, pouty child, right? If I can stay adult Jeff in the captain's chair on a daily basis, and I agree with that 100%. That's lovely, by the way. It's a choice, and then actions taken based upon that choice on a daily basis. That's what that needs to look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Let's be grown up,
man. Yeah, let's be grown ups.
Let's be awesome men.
Let's safeguard. I think we are awesome men.
Let's continue to be awesome.
Yeah,
men.
That's a better word. Let's continue.
Right on.
You know what? This worked for me today. I think I'll try this again tomorrow, huh?
Sounds good.
I think I'll try it again tomorrow. Well, Jeff, man, thank you so much for coming on, dude. Always a pleasure. This was fun. I mean, you killed it. I killed it. I thought it was good, man.
We did. I love you, man. It's my pleasure. So, thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks so much for coming on. Thank you so much for everybody for tuning in and following me on my journey. It means a lot to me. Definitely go hit that subscribe button on YouTube. No Lions here. If you're listening on YouTube, go check us out on Spotify. The whole discography of all 80 plus episodes are on there. But make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment. Also, too, if you want to get a hold of me, nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that is nolionshere@gmail.com. As always, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. We'll see you guys next time.